I was, honestly, myself watching the games, I was surprised that they only dropped one spot. If it was me, I would have jumped. I would have put Ohio State ahead of Oklahoma. Just they've looked much better, and specifically when you look at the competition. I mean, Indiana is a better football team than Kansas, right? I mean, I think we would all agree with that, and they handled their business in a very dominating way. And I think that's one of the problems that Oklahoma has had kind of culturally is within this program. They play down to the level of competition too much, and they don't have whatever it is that it factor, that killer instinct, whatever you need to have to be able to put some of these teams away and dominate. And they're not doing that, and even to a higher degree this year than it's been in the past.
One side note about putting that in further perspective about the Kansas Indiana comparison would be that, Indiana is only 2-5. They've lost 5 games to top 10 teams. Penn State dropped out just this past poll, but had lost 5 games, though. So
Right.
they've played a brutal schedule, and they played all those games close. Penn State, that got to be a sizable win, eventually 24-0. But all those games were close against those top 10 teams. And then Ohio State, my goodness, they had 44 points at halftime. They were naming the score. It was like nothing. So anyway, just that comparison's interesting that and I think it's a fair evaluation just to look at the teams and say, hey, if you know football, understand football, and look past the score and just watch these teams play, we can make comparisons across the nation, taking into account the level of competition and the opponents, but that Oklahoma's not, they're winning the games, not playing well. A team like Ohio State, for example, is playing well, now has just annihilated a number of teams in a row, but 3 consecutively within the conference that are, again, not great teams, but somewhat capable teams.
Right.
And that aren't losing by that score to anyone else. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. A week from today, we will have those rankings released from the previous night to review that, because Oklahoma, for as lowly as they've been ranked by me because of their performance throughout the season, because of other teams losing games, they've elevated in my rankings. So I have them higher than I believe they are, meaning I have them ranked based on their resume higher than the level at which they're playing right now. But they continue to get it done. And to your point, just the lunacy of Kansas having the ball at midfield down 28-23 with about 3 minutes left in the game, had that play not taken place with Caleb Williams. And I know it was controversial, but based on what I saw, it was obviously a heads-up play. I didn't see it to be that controversial. I know that Kennedy Brooks was very close to the line, but seemed to be the correct call to make.
Yeah, no, I think in any event, it was to your point, Mark, it was a really heady play, especially for a true freshman who hadn't played as much. And I think in a lot of ways, the way Caleb Williams played in the second half, he kind of bailed. He bailed out the defense a lot. So, yeah, I mean, and I think I've come on here a couple of times and talked about a little bit of a cultural problem, and it just seems to be manifesting itself, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. I think the leadership factor that Caleb, I think, brings to the table, I think, helps things both on the offense and the defensive side of the ball. But I think when you got players just walking around, when you got players, when you give up 23 points to when you give up 23 points to Kansas, like Kansas hasn't competed against anyone really this year, specifically in the Big 12. I think they lost. The closest loss was like 38 points to Texas Tech, 45-7. So, yeah, I mean, they're playing with fire. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, yes, they're winning. They're finding ways to win these games, but they're playing with fire and to a point where November, I mean, yeah, they can probably play like this and find a way to beat Texas Tech this week, but they're not going to be able to do that to beat Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State. So they've got to figure out, and part of it's getting some kids back, which I think they're going to start getting some kids back this week. De'Aaron Turner Yale should be back, I think, this week for Texas Tech. Jalen Redmond on the defensive line should be back as well. And then there's one more on the defensive side. Oh, DJ Graham should be back. That's going to help a little bit, but just in terms of the desire and the effort was probably the most concerning thing for me over the last couple of games, just to see that. And they're shuffling people around. Mark, they've got Key Lawrence, who has been a safety, and they've moved him to cornerback this week. I don't know. I don't know if it's a permanent thing. I don't know if they're just kind of getting some reps there from a depth perspective, or if he's a guy that they're thinking about maybe moving there. And I think it's probably an effort to just try to get your best 11 kids on the field at the same time. But it seems a little desperate and a little, I mean, late to be moving a kid that's, I don't know that he's ever played cornerback. Maybe in high school. I don't know. I mean, at Tennessee he didn't play, and this year he hasn't played corner, obviously. So yeah, there's a lot of things that they need to get figured out in the short term and the backside of the defense, because they don't have a whole lot of time to waste.